Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first episode of the Ike and Larry Show, and we talk about things paranormal and whatever else of interest that may interest you, me, or Larry, or anybody who's listening. We try to keep it within the paranormal, but whatever topic is, the topic will be. So, say hello, Larry.
Oh, Larry. Oh, hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us on our first show. This is going to be a really great time. We're going to talk a lot about the paranormal. We're going to talk about equipment. We're going to talk about shows. We're going to talk about our experiences. And we'd sure like to hear from you about it, too, whether you like the show or not, maybe some questions or thoughts. My name is Larry Lawson. I'm down here in beautiful Vero Beach, Florida, the home of the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation and Indian River Hauntings. That's my team, and you can check us out at IndianRiverHauntings.com or ParanormalFBI.com. You can also see some of the investigations that we're doing and some of the other work that we've done over the years at Indian River Hauntings 2341 on YouTube. That's at Indian River Hauntings 2341 on YouTube. And certainly you can catch us on Facebook also, where we put a bunch of stuff, and that's either Indian River Hauntings or the Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. So come check us out, but more importantly, stay with us on this show. I think you're going to hear and experience a lot of cool things. So with that,
you also have
retired cops too. We're both retired cops.
Exactly. And you also have videos on YouTube, I believe, right? Or you post some of your stuff on YouTube?
Yeah, it's at Indian River Hauntings 2341 on YouTube. Is a lot of our investigations and stuff like that. So you'll be able to check it out.
He has an awesome channel. Check it out. So my Call of Fame is I started IDK Paranormal. Also on YouTube. You can also catch it on TikTok. My email address is idkparanormal@gmail.com. If you need to get a hold of us, that's how to do it. You can also comment on these videos after we post them. They will be posted on YouTube and
Spreaker.
Well, they'll be going through Spreaker, but they'll be also on Spotify. We're going to have it on Spotify probably.
Age is a terrible thing, Ike.
Yeah, we'll just get it out wherever we can get it. So the premise of the show is kind of two retired cops talking about things of interest, and we're going to keep it real. And we're not going to hold back. And personally, I'm good at offending people. So if I say something you don't like, I'll take it personal. I don't know you, and if I do know you, then you might want to take it personal. But nothing is intentional. Okay, so if I say the shit word or something, well, if you have to plug your ears, you're probably at the wrong channel. You probably need to go to a different site and listen somewhere else. So no holding back. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about the daily news. What's going on in the world these days? What's going on with you, Larry? Have you been abducted lately?
Well, we're just not been abducted. You know, I'm mostly a ghost researcher, paranormal ghost researcher. So I haven't dealt a lot in the UFO world, although because of everything that we do is paranormal, certainly some things have come our way. We've had a lot of folks that have been connecting ghosts with UFOs, Bigfoot, things like that. So I'm anxious to talk today about that subject because it's something I really need to expand my horizons on. I really haven't had a lot of experiences, seen a couple of things. Probably the most important was on the Midnight Watch one time with a buddy of mine, my zone partners, we call them. We saw something in the skies to the south of us that was just doing things that normal aircraft don't do. Now, both Ike and I folks are aviation folks. Now, I'm not a pilot. Ike is, but I'm an aviator wannabe, so I do have enough knowledge to be dangerous, but I know how airplanes work, and what this aircraft was doing was nothing that a helicopter or any normal airplane or helicopter I've ever known would do. So that was probably my most significant experience. I've talked to tons of people who have had experiences, but I'm anxious to talk more about it today because like everything else in the paranormal field, got to keep an open mind.
So Larry, do you own a night vision device, a real night vision device, not the IR illuminating kind, but military grade? Do you own one of those?
No, I've looked at them, years on the job. I've used them on surveillances and things, so I have experience with it, but I don't own one. That's just kind of out of my pocketbook realm.
Right. And like I was saying, I've looked through them, and it's amazing at the things you can see up in the sky. there's stuff always moving in directions satellites and planes don't move. They're making 90-degree turns and zigzagging and blinking in and out. Pretty crazy. I'd love to have one of those. If you're into UFOs, or if you like watching weird stuff in the sky, that is probably by far the best method to see weird stuff that you just can't see. I mean, even just plain binoculars. Just grab a regular set of binoculars and look at the sky, and it's amazing how much more you see.
Well, it's amazing because the part of the country you're in, the great Southwest of our beautiful country, big sky, and you can just see so much. Or here in South Florida, we've got a lot of light pollution, so it's a lot tougher to see the expanses the way you can. So I'm sure that's got to help. Yeah,
but you are in a UFO hotspot down there. I mean, there's many sightings that happen down there.
I've heard that, like up around the Big Bend of Florida. There's, and I can't remember the town now, but there's a town up there that was known as a UFO hotspot for the longest time. Certainly, we've had a lot of experiences down in our neck of the woods. In fact, just the other day, there was a huge report in the city of Miami. I don't know if you heard about this one or not, but there was a huge police response to a large mall in Dade County, Florida, which is Miami. And apparently, the police say they responded to a bunch of kids that were setting off firecrackers. But the word that's coming out is some sort of alien craft landed. And inside the mall, there was, tall, like 10-foot tall creatures running around. And, of course, it came out on TikTok and a lot of other places as something else that happened. The official reports, and from the folks I've talked to, say it was a group of kids. But was it? We don't know. I have to assume, and it's the cop in me that says, if this was certainly something other than a disturbance caused by humans, we would have heard something. But that's the big stink right now. You can check it out on YouTube. There's lots of press on it. And they say UFO landed in Miami. So
they're right there coming to get you.
And I'm a little far north of that, but that's okay. But that also speaks to the social media and how social media can sometimes blow things up. And I don't know that this didn't occur, but if it didn't, and they put a lot of a lot of people put on a lot of announcements of this, all that does is help the credibility of things when they do happen. If somebody's just making something out of this that it's not.
Yeah, the thing with social media, it's a double-edged sword, I guess, because it puts a lot of stuff out there that people are filming and seeing, but there's also potential for a lot of fakes, and especially now with AI, they can pretty much fake anything. So it's hard to discern what is really true, what is not true. But I know what's true. The things that I've seen personally with my eyes, and that was pre-AI and pre-social media.
Well, yeah, because when you came on the job, they're using flintlocks and stuff. So I guess that is pretty well,
cool. It's the great Southwest. We were using smoke signals. I mean, it was it took a while to get the word out.
What sort of things have you experienced?
Some of my best sightings in the sky, and I don't know, I'm just a magnet for it, I guess, but when I was living in Germany as a kid, I had my first sighting when I was probably 11 years old, and we were playing soccer in the backyard just around sunset, and that's the real football the rest of the world plays, if you don't know what soccer is. But a real manly sport. But anyway, we're out there kicking the ball around, and something caught the corner of my eye, and I looked up, and this craft, it was a cylindrical, like a kind of a rocket-shaped craft without fins on it, just like a tube. It flew, from left to right, like over the top of our house and barn. And it wasn't very high. It looked like it was maybe 100 feet, 200 feet above the house. It made absolutely no sound. It wasn't going very fast. It was, if I had to guess, I would say maybe 70, 80 miles an hour. So it wasn't nothing like lightning fast. You could clearly see it. But the mind-boggling part about it was it made no sound. And it wasn't just I had seen it. It was my stepbrother and possibly my sister, who's also down in Florida. She may have seen it also. But we were shocked. We're looking at this thing and like, what the heck? It's not an airplane. It's not making any sound. It's close to the ground. It's not gaining altitude or losing altitude. It's just flying at a straight line from left to right. That was the first thing that struck me as pretty weird. It didn't make no sense because even at a young age, I already had the flying bug. I was already building model airplanes, and I was, I knew everything there was. Yeah, I knew everything I needed to know about little military aircrafts and helicopters and stuff. So, this was nothing. I don't know what the heck it was. And then you turn up the clock, and I'm living in New Mexico, and my wife and I seen one afternoon that was crossing the sky from north to south. And it was kind of also strange because it was kind of an orange color, but it left a black contrail behind it, and there was a bubble-shaped contrail. So immediately behind it, it made almost a circular cloud, and then it stretched out. It's kind of hard to explain. But as it was moving fairly slow across the sky, and it was really, really high. You could tell it was just way, way up there. And I seen it out the corner of my eye, and we stopped, and we get out, and we're standing in front of my truck looking at it. And it stops. And when it stopped, that circular contrail smoke cloud behind it, you could see it just kind of like it was using different kind of thrusters or something because the cloud changed shapes. Mm-hmm. And it sat there for 15, 30 seconds, and then turned to the west. It made a perfect 90 degrees without moving. It stopped, sat there, and then turned west. And it started out fairly slow going west, and then it just sped up, and within probably 2 seconds, the sun hasn't quite set yet, so you couldn't see it anymore. But within 2 seconds, it was so far west, it was gone. It was just disappeared in the bright sun. That was strike number 2. Obviously not an aircraft that I've ever seen. And then, I can go on and on, but another real good one I've had was during my logging days in New Mexico. And we were heading out to the Gila Wilderness. It was probably about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'm driving a semi, and my buddy's behind me in a semi, and we're communicating back and forth on the CB to stay awake. And we're coming across the St. Augustine Plains. Now, the St. Augustine Plains is also where part or some of the Roswell plane UFO crash ended up as. And they never really said that, but they said there was also a crash of an unidentified object in the St. Augustine Plains. Now, the St. Augustine Plains is also where they built the Very Large Array, and you've seen that on many movies. It's a bunch of satellite dishes, and they're on tracks, and they can move them around. That's the St. Augustine Plains. So it's a big bowl. So you're kind of going from a semi-mountainous area, and you drop into this bowl that's miles and miles and miles across. It's almost like a caldera type thing. And we drop down into this bowl where the road is straight as an arrow, probably for 15, 20 miles at least. And it's just desert on each side, and these satellite dishes all over the place. And I'm talking to my buddy on the CB back there, and I look up and I see a really bright light in my windshield to the right. And I even asked him, I was like, what the heck is that? And he's like, I don't know. And I keep looking at it, and it instantly splits into two. There was one bright light, and then it went poop, and now there's two, and they're still the same brightness. So I'm like, did you see this? And he goes, yeah, I seen that. And I'm like, let's pull over and check this out. And he's like, no, we're not going to mess with that. And I'm like, look, if it's a UFO, they're going to get us whether we're doing 50, 60 miles an hour or if we're parked. It doesn't really matter if they want us. So we pull over, and we shut our trucks off because they're noisy semis. And we're standing in front of my semi because I was in the front. And we're just watching this thing. And these two lights are coming directly at us. There are no other aircrafts in the sky. It's, pitch dark out there. And they're coming at us, and you can't judge how high they are because it's pitch dark, but not a sound. They're not making any sound. And just before they get to us, as they're coming at us, the one on the right breaks off and starts going towards the east, and the one on the left is going directly over us. And as it's going over us, it stops just as it passed us a little bit, and it just stops and hovers there. And once again, it's creepy because we can't tell. Is it 100 feet high? Is it 1,000 feet high? We don't know what size it is. So it just sits there, and the one that broke off to the east made a U-turn, and it's coming all up behind us now where we were parked. Wow. And they're not moving super fast. They're moving, if you look into the sky, they're moving at this speed. And the one that came from the east flies directly over us. No sound. And the one that hovered above us joins it, and they both fly away together. And as they disappeared, looked like they became one again. Now I can't swear to that, but it certainly looked like it because they were far enough to the west now. But as they disappeared, they were flying together away, and then it almost looked like they joined into one, just like how they started.
Interesting.
Now, people say, this is pre-drones, and if it was a helicopter, you certainly would have heard it because there's no sound pollution out there. This is, you're in the wilderness out there. There's no sound.
Wow.
It was nothing we've ever seen, and I'll chalk it up as a UFO, definitely a UFO.
Well, I got to tell you, you and I have been friends for a while. We've investigated together. We've done shows together. I trust you implicitly. I mean, I kid you, and I kid about you, but your integrity is above reproach. I know for a fact that when you're telling me this happened, it occurred, and that goes a long way. Unfortunately, there's so many other folks out there that come up with really crazy stories, and I do another radio show where I've had some folks on that told some really wild stories. I don't know them, but I know you, and therefore I know there's got to be truth to it. And there's so many folks like you that have impeccable characters that have seen things over decades, hundreds of years, that have seen things. Y'all can't be nuts, okay? There's got to be something you're seeing, and that's my point. There's got to be something you're seeing. So
unless the military has a technology that they've managed to keep secret from us, which is hard to believe because nobody can keep secrets, and it would be a technology so advanced where it would defy gravity and probably space and time. And if this was happening back in the late 80s, early 90s already, by now, surely we would know, it would have leaked. Nobody can keep those kind of secrets.
Being a cop, any more than two people know a secret, it's not a secret anymore. So
exactly,
we've experienced that with folks that we've dealt with over the years. So I agree with you. So what can it be? UFOs.
Yeah, it's definitely a UFO. But what are they? Are they interdimensional? Is it a time slip?
Mm-hmm.
Is it something from the future, or is it somebody from another planet that's found a wormhole that can cross back and forth? And for whatever reason, who knows? Maybe there's something on our planet that they require. But
wow, you're talking about the dimensional thing, and that's interesting because Einstein talks about it in the string, what we call the string theory. He talks, in his general theory of relativity, he talks about dimensions, and there's a lot of discussion these days that is that how they're getting here is by crossing dimensions. I mean, you got that theory, then you've got the, of course, the I can't think of it's the black hole theory, but there's a particular name for it.
The wormhole.
The wormhole, yeah. I can't remember there's a specific name for it that escapes me right now.
But
so
if that's the case, that could explain many things, not just UFOs. It could explain ghosts, and it could explain the Bigfoot Sasquatch sightings. It could explain, some of these ships that wash up ashore that have been missing for 80 years, and they suddenly show up on a beach somewhere. Lost aircrafts. The Bermuda Triangle.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had a hard time with that early on. I really, really did. I really thought when I saw people starting to combine the sightings of ghosts, Bigfoot, and UFOs all in the same thing, I had some real issues with it. And I still have some, but it's beginning to make more sense. If it's a dimensional issue, that would certainly explain things like Bigfoot. Why have we not seen Bigfoot? If Bigfoot is out there, and I'm not doubting folks, okay? I've never seen one, but as a cop, I've learned to have an open mind. And once again, some really top-notch folks I know have claimed to see something. So why have we got no evidence? Why have not we found a carcass? Why haven't the drones that are out there? Why haven't we got pictures? Are dimensions the issue? Is this an interdimensional issue? I don't know.
I'd like to think it is, but then think of it this way. It could also be that some of these things have a way of doing things different than what we're accustomed to. I mean, if we judge a bass on the ability of how well it can climb a tree, we would think, well, that bass is pretty freaking stupid. But he's not stupid. In his world, he's perfectly legit. You know, he does what he does as a bass. But yeah, it wouldn't be so far-fetched and unreasonable to believe that there are creatures out there that have abilities that we've never heard of. You know, because we're still finding creatures and animals that adapt to certain things that we're like in shock, like, wow, we never even knew. And the octopus is a great example.
So, but are you suggesting that the animal does something mechanical, or is just something that they naturally see and slip through? That's because, you know, I'm kind of can see the dimensional argument, but I'm having trouble seeing what we perceive as a Bigfoot being able to know when to push the button to go into the next dimension. So is it just something, do you think that's happening? Does that make sense, my question?
Yeah, I totally understand, because maybe he can slip in and out of whatever dimension he's in, and for him that's perfectly normal. To him, it's as normal as us, you know, walking outside the house. Do I think Sasquatches are real? There's something definitely to it, because there's literally thousands of Sasquatch reports that happen every year all over the world. All these people can't be crazy. And I worked for a logging company for 6 years, and these guys were pretty stout, you know, hardworking, blue-collar people. Mm-hmm. And one of them found big barefoot tracks. This was up in Oregon at their logging site. They returned to the logging site in the morning to go back to work, and near one of the loaders was these giant barefoot tracks. And initially they thought somebody's hoaxing them, even though they were miles and miles and miles away in the woods. So him and his brother, it's a big Mormon family, so there's you know, 15 kids in the family. So two of them take off and follow these tracks. And they follow these tracks through a creek, up a steep hillside, through another creek, and probably for a 3/4 mile, because there's pretty deep snow and they wouldn't go any further. So whoever, if it was a hoax, that dude was invested. I mean, he put on, you know, so they took pictures of it and framed it and hung it in their office because they were convinced. And there were sightings, you know, other people have seen it in that area up there. So if they seen it, they believed in it, and they're not the kind of people that believe in that kind of stuff. And it's the same, and oddly enough, those guys, it was Leonard Jensen Logging. And they went from Oregon first. From Oregon, they moved to Arizona into the White Mountains over there by Snowflake, Arizona, Snowflake, Arizona is also a Mormon community founded by Mormons. So they ended up over there logging. And Snowflake, Arizona is where Travis Walton UFO story takes off from. Remember Travis Walton?
Yeah, that one I do know about, sure.
Yeah, and they knew Travis Walton. And they said, you know, and Travis Walton didn't work for a logging company. He worked for a brush company. They were cleaning up after a logging operation. He was hired to go in there and clean up all the deadfall, all the stuff that was left behind to make it look nice and clean up the forest, basically. But they knew Travis Walton, and they said Travis Walton was an upstanding kid. I mean, there was no reason for him. You know, he was also a Mormon. There was no reason for him to come up with that kind of story. There's no popularity in that back then in the late 70s. There was no point in it. There was no social media to where they could get the story out right away. And in fact, him and his friends were looking at going to jail, you know, for making up this story. So,
well, but there's the argument by some, and there's some folks that you can't, as I like to say, if Abe Lincoln walked up, sat down in front of you and said, "Look, my name's Abe, and I'm going to tell you what's happened on the other side," and then poof, he was gone. Some folks still would not believe it. They would find some way to debunk it. And that happens here so much. What do you think it's going to take to convince folks that this actually exists?
I think in order to convince folks, you're only going to affect a population that has the natural curiosity of a child. If you're a curious person and you want to know things, you're going to be open-minded and listen. I think the rest of the population has a defense mechanism built in to where if they hear something that their brain doesn't agree with, or they were brought up differently and their household doesn't agree with, then they're just going to deny it. They're going to have to say, it didn't happen, it's not real, fake news.
And with cops, we've seen that dozens of times. And that goes back to us having an open mind, I think, gives us a little bit more ability to see things that maybe others can't.
I think so. Even though there's quite a few cops I've known that have had paranormal experiences, and they knew it was a paranormal experience, but they just denied it. They just, they don't want to know about it. They don't want to hear about it. They know something wasn't right, but it's like bad juju. Don't even talk about it. Don't mess with it. Leave it alone.
Well,
they don't want to
see, but see, I see that as almost agreeing with the point. If they're saying it's bad, I don't even want to talk about it. They are acknowledging it. But there are just some people out there that are going to say, "Oh no, the wind was blowing from the west at the same time the sun was rising, and the tree branches got in the way. That's what caused it, regardless of what's in front of them." And sometimes, that's the case. And you'd agree, there's people out there that fake this stuff all the time too.
Absolutely. And those hurt they hurt the industry, period. I mean, those people I have no tolerance for. They can now the television shows. I look at them as entertainment. Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters, all those. To me, it's a movie. I don't watch Indiana Jones and say, "Oh, that's fake." Of course, it's fake. The same way I watch Ghost Hunters and Ghost Adventures, I'm like, well, that stuff has been edited. There's a producer trying to make it more exciting. That's part of the show. That doesn't really bother me at all. But people that fake stuff and then go on shows like ours and they try to tell you this is really what happened, and then you find out later they've been telling lies all this time. I'm like, you're a loser.
Well, there's also some folks that give stories. The first thing they'll say is, "I didn't want to tell anybody because I thought I'd be ridiculed." And the first thought that goes through my mind is, then why are you on my show talking about it? But then they come up with a story that is so outside the realm of reality, and they've never taken, well, I took a picture, or I forgot to take a picture, or something happened. And I grant you, doing ghost investigations, ghost research, there have been times where we've had equipment that just stopped working. I get that. But so often you get folks that give these fantastic stories, and they've got nothing to back it up except to say, "You need to believe me." And some of those people might actually be accurate, but we've got to start coming up with a way, I think, to document better.
Well, it should be easier now. I mean, like a lot of my stories, this is well, there were cell phones that were coming around. Right. You just didn't have a way of documenting it back then, but now there's really no excuse. Now the problem, though, is you can fake it much easier, too, because of all the electronic equipment we have, There's so many filters and things, so...
Well, did you hear about the thing in Las Vegas a couple months ago? Las Vegas PD responded to some sort of disturbance call, and they actually have the body cams from the officers, deputies that responded, and these people are talking about a spaceship landed, extremely tall extraterrestrials were seen, and not one person took out their cell phone and clicked. Not one. And I think that episode's been kind of debunked right now. I think that's the last I heard. But you're right. We can document so much easier than we could back when you and I first started doing all this stuff. It just didn't happen.
Now, another reason could be, and that goes back to the Sasquatches and stuff. Why aren't there any clear pictures of Sasquatch or UFOs? Is because possibly maybe these things can somehow tell you not to take pictures. There's a lot of documented cases where equipment either malfunctions or you just freeze. Now, people, police officers they have a little bit more training not to freeze because they're trained to act.
Right.
But I've seen police officers freeze. And, as a cop, I've seen shit that I can't explain. And many times afterwards, I'm like, holy crap, I should have taken a picture of that. But survival kicks in, fight or flight kicks in, and you're like, kind of just like the deer in the headlight for a second, like
I can see that if something boom is right there. I can see that startled, frightened, icing up type of thing. But when you get folks that are talking about watching something for more than a minute,
I agree.
then I gotta be suspect, because even us in our business, we'll get startled and freeze. That's I think a natural human instinct. But once this thing goes on, like this thing in Las Vegas apparently went on, this thing in Miami, if people were seeing actual creatures, you're telling me in a mall?
Yeah.
where something went on for 10 minutes, somebody didn't, and it wouldn't be out there by now.
Right.
Once again, I until somebody proves it to be fake, I'll keep an open mind. But those are the things that don't help.
Yeah. Not sponsored, by the way. That's a monster. Good stuff.
Oh,
I don't know if you,
too.
I don't know if you know who Les Stroud is, Survivor Man.
Yes.
Yep. A very credible person. I've listened to many interviews he's done because he's just an honest, good person. It seems like, you know, he started the whole Survivor stuff. He's the guy who started it. You know, he took his own camera equipment out there. He lugged it around. There was no producer. There was no sound man, no editors. He did it all.
He didn't stay in a hotel when he wasn't out there in the woods. He didn't go back to a hotel or nothing.
Yep. And for 30 years, he did this and never once mentioned cryptids or UFOs or anything else. And finally, he decided to come out and tell his story. And it's fascinating. You can look him up on YouTube. They're all on YouTube. He said he was up in Alaska getting ready to film an episode. And he put his camera up on a tripod, and he was getting ready to build a fire. And he walked away from his camera to collect some firewood. And he's quite a ways away from the camera when suddenly the trees started knocking around and branches breaking and stuff. He looks up, and there stands a Bigfoot. He says there's a creature that's probably about 8 foot tall, covered in hair, breaking branches and making all kinds of racket. Now, him being a professional movie maker, you know, his first thought is, where's my damn camera at? It's way over where he left it, where he was setting up his fire. Mm-hmm. So he's trying to get back to the fire, and by the time he gets back to the fire, where he's making the fire, this thing tore through the woods, breaking branches and everything else. And he says, you know, I've spent 35, I think it was 30 or 35 years in the forest, never seen or heard of Bigfoot. And here it is. It was real. It was real as day. I mean, so it sparked an interest in him to where he wanted to start documenting unusual occurrences in the forest. And he's up in Canada, where there's notorious UFO sightings up there, and Bigfoot sightings up in British Columbia. And he sets up all kinds of cameras, and he hikes way out in the middle of nowhere and sets up these cameras, and he puts bait in the trees like apples and a candy bar way up high, like 10 foot high in the trees. And he goes to sleep, and he has cameras facing the stuff, and he gets up in the morning and all the food is gone, and all the cameras have glitched. Every single camera, when the food disappears, have glitched. It doesn't show how the stuff disappeared, and he thinks that's pretty weird. So he does it again, and he sets it all up, and he goes to sleep, and he wakes up in the middle of the night, and he sees 2 unidentified lights in the sky, and he says they were definitely not airplanes. They're just hovering around doing some weird stuff off in the peaks, way off in the distance. And he goes back to sleep, and then he wakes up. He thinks he's awake, and there's something really, really heavy on his chest. Something is holding him down. And he can't, it's almost like sleep paralysis, maybe. He says something huge is holding him down. And in the morning he wakes up, all the bait he put out is gone. Cameras all have glitched again, and he can't explain it. And this guy is a legit videographer. I mean, he knows his equipment. And his thoughts are that somehow whenever these creatures appear, electronic equipment glitches. And I've experienced that with Christine, who's my partner on IDK Paranormal.
And his daughter, great
my
kid.
daughter, of course. And we were trying to take UFO. There's to the south of us, towards Roswell almost. There's a lot of weird sightings in the sky out there. And a couple of years ago, we spent a few nights going out there filming the sky. And it's wintertime. We're sitting in my Jeep, and it's cold as hell. And we're just staring out the windshield, and waiting. Finally, a big orange orb pops up on the horizon. I grabbed a camera. I film it. 2 cameras, actually. She had one. I had one. We both film it. Then it's gone. We wait. It happens like 2 or 3 more times. Different directions, different ways, different sizes. We had a lot of anomalies on tape. They're like, great. This is going to make a great episode of IDK Paranormal because we've caught some UFOs. Believe it or not, when I get home to edit, the camera Tina was using was dead and had recorded nothing. And my camera, every time that orb was supposed to be there, it was not. I mean, it worked. The camera was functional. It worked. It showed the Jeep. It showed the windshield. It showed everything. And I know how to use my camera. But whenever I pointed it to where this thing was flying around, it glitched. And it wasn't just like turned off glitched. It was like wavy lines, like electric interference or something.
Really?
Pretty spooky. That's pretty weird because that's never happened before. So
And coming from you, that is knowing you, that's legit. So that does speak to the theory that maybe somehow I'm still not there yet that they did it themselves, but maybe something that's creating their appearance maybe caused it. I'm just guessing. But coming from you, that's legit stuff.
well, it's full circle. If they're slipping in and out of dimensions, maybe that creates some kind of electric rift, interference, anomaly, that just electronic equipment, because our electronic equipment is extremely sensitive. I mean, it might be pretty tough and we can knock it around, but one solar flare will knock it all out. One snowstorm and our freaking phones don't work and our internet quits working. So it's not that tough to interrupt electronic signals. There's still huge portions of New Mexico where we don't even have cell service. So
that's amazing in this day and age, 2024, and you've got areas that are not reachable by cell. That's amazing.
A lot. I would venture to say probably 60-70% of our state. If you're around the cities, but if you head off in the desert or the mountains, there's no phone.
Wow, that's really interesting. I did not know that.
All those places, like when you were out here a few years back, and we went up to mine country.
Right.
Very, very spotty, and in most places, no phone at all. And you're not that far away from the city.
That's true. Well, our mutual friend Chris over in England tells a story about when he was a youngster. He was fishing, and he and his buddy were sitting by a pond, and they were out too late, and they suddenly hear a Bigfoot story. They suddenly hear this creature stomping up behind him and throwing stuff, and he experienced that also, but then it was gone. Nobody else experienced in there, at least at that time. So what happened to this creature?
Right.
Dimensions. I'm not as unbelieving about that as I used to be. There's something strange going on, and that goes to the fact that we've got to do more research. Whether if it is some psychological event that somehow dozens, hundreds, thousands of people are going through, let's figure it out. But if it's a dimensional thing, let's figure that out also.
If it was psychological, we wouldn't all have the same apparitions appear. Some person would have a unicorn, some person would have a nice pretty rainbow, and the other person would see a Sasquatch, but they're all seeing pretty much the same thing. And I spend a lot of times in the wilderness. I love being outdoors. There's something very spiritual, and you have to be very open-minded and in tune with the outdoors. I mean, I love it. It's just so peaceful when I'm outdoors. And you can sense things that are outdoors, not just a Sasquatch. I've never seen a Sasquatch. I might have heard one, but and I've heard tree knocks. That's a real thing too. But I've never seen one. But there's other things out there. There's other things in the wilderness that there's a different energy out there, and it's hard to explain. But
the Native American peoples that have been here long before us talk about a lot of these things also, and not just things like skinwalkers and variations of Bigfoot, but also extraterrestrial type things that they've been talking about for centuries. Yes. And certainly, you can't attach that all to some sort of mass hysteria on seeing something. There's just too much at different times to just totally blow it off. So you got to ask once again, what is it?
There's two things that come to mind immediately. First is the most common question about Sasquatch is, and we're talking a lot about Sasquatch right now, but it ties in with UFOs. The most common question you hear of doubters and debunkers of Sasquatch is, why has nobody ever found the body or skeleton?
Yeah.
And Les Stroud, Cyberman, they asked him the same question. He put it perfect. He goes, I've spent 40 years in the woods. I have never found or seen a dead bear or skeleton of a bear. I've spent 6 years in the woods logging. I've never seen a dead bear or skeleton of a bear or a bobcat or a mountain lion. Just because you don't see it, it's like in your neck of the woods. If I go to Florida and take a 5-gallon bucket of water out of the ocean, and if I don't see a jellyfish, then my assumption is jellyfish aren't real. I mean, the ocean is huge, you know, and you're just taking a bucket out of
Okay.
it. So the forest is the same way. People don't understand how much wilderness and outdoors we have in this country.
Hmm.
There's plenty of places to hide. And if
Well, yeah.
maybe they bury their dead, maybe they take them along wherever they're going into their interdimensional neighborhood. You know, maybe that's why we never found one.
Well, you've heard the stories of the national parks, and in fact, there's a whole series of shows about people that just disappear in the vastness of our national park system, uh, and there's no trace.
That
At
crosses
least
my mind. That crosses my mind every time I do this. Every time I'm
Yeah.
in the mountains by myself, I carry a transponder or well, it's a transponder in sorts, an emergency transponder, but just for that reason, always armed because you just
And a 9mm, yeah,
you never know.
yeah, yeah,
They may take me, but there's going to be a fight.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah,
going willingly.
yeah.
And then, you know, you mentioned the Native Americans, the ancient Native Americans before all the Pueblos and all that. They already had UFOs and alien-looking petroglyphs and hieroglyphs. And you look at the Zunis, you know, the Zunis belief, and the Zuni reservation is just like 70, 80 miles west of us. Their belief system is the star people, that life came from the stars and they returned back to the stars, and everything they have is star related, space related. And you look at the Apaches, the Mescalero Apaches. I went to a law enforcement involved training in Ruidoso, New Mexico, and it's on the Apache reservation. And for the opening ceremonies, the Apaches came out and did a ceremonial dance. Now, first thing I thought of is, man, these guys look like aliens. They all had these weird looking antenna things on their headdresses that they've used for thousands of years, but they all look like antennas. I'm like, these guys look like they're dressed up like aliens. You know, they're not emulating an elk or deer. They're emulating something they've seen 1,000 years ago pop out of the sky, because this is nothing from Earth.
Well, and I would love to talk to somebody in one of the nations more about this. What do they say about their costumes and their connection with dimensional creatures? We'll call it that, whether it be alien or Bigfoot or whatever. We'll call them dimensional creatures. What do they say?
I've talked to them, a lot of them,
Mm-hmm.
and it depends who you talk to. You know, a lot of the Native Americans are Christians. They've been Christianized, so they don't want to talk about it, and they forget everything they've ever known in the past. And then there's those that hold on to the past, and they will flat tell you that their belief system almost every time comes from outer space. It's, you know, the Great Father came from outer space and seeded the planet, and that's who they are. And it's fascinating because, like, the Navajos, I've talked to a lot of Navajos, and their belief system, you know, they don't want to talk about it because it brings bad luck. Everything they do is, you know, don't talk about, especially like skinwalker. Don't say the word.
Right.
The word isn't even skinwalker. There's a Dene word for it, but I can't remember what it is. But even just mentioning skinwalker, talking about it, sends them into a hissy. And
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I've actually heard from police officers, tribal police officers, that in your neck of the woods, if they get a report of something like that, they have to investigate it. They have to, they've got to address it, not as a disturbance or a suspicious incident, but as a sighting of a dimensional creature, as we'll call it. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I've known several BIA rangers, and BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs. They're badass cops. Those guys are no joke, because they're like cross-commissioned into 4 states. You know, they have Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona commissions. They go to a federal academy. And those are badass cops. And when they go on the reservation, there are no constitutional rights. Your constitutional rights stop once you're on the res. So they are no joke. But on the same token, they also they're tasked to investigate any paranormal activity, because it's such a ingrained belief with the native tribes, and especially the Navajo. They have the Wailing Woman. They have, you know, they have the Bigfoot. They have the skinwalkers. There's all kinds of beliefs. A crow, if there's a bunch of crows that land in your yard, to the Navajo, crows are bad. You know, a lot of native tribes, crows are a good thing. but not to the Navajo. An owl, you know, if there's an owl hooting in your backyard, they'll come and investigate that, because owls are really bad news in the Native American world. I mean, owls always are the bringers of death and all kinds of stuff. So most of that stuff is superstition. But the rangers I've talked to, I asked them flat out. We were at a firearms class, and there was 2 rangers there that were snipers. And I said, so what have you seen that's legit? And they were just telling me story after story after story of, you know, seeing footprints of Sasquatch, tracking Sasquatch, hearing Sasquatch, skinwalkers. There was one ranger told me that he left a skinwalker call where a lady said there has been a Native American man hanging out outside her house, and he never made contact with her, but every time she looked out the window or something like that, she would see him. But she would also see a coyote in the same place more often than not. Well, this ranger went and went over there and talked to the lady, did his report, and as he was leaving, he's driving down, I can't remember, it's a state road up there by Farmington, near the Navajo Res. Yeah, and he said he's doing about 60 some odd miles an hour. It's nighttime, wintertime, and he looks out the window, and there's a coyote running alongside his car. And this may sound weird, but coyotes are all over the place out here. I got probably 3 in my yard right now, but they do not down here. Yeah, but they don't do 60 miles an hour by far. No. So this ranger knew right away what he was dealing with. He goes, he looked out, he's seen this coyote running alongside his window as he's leaving this person's property. He's on the highway now, and it startled him and it shook him so bad. I mean, he said he floored his unit. He's going super fast now. And he looks back over there and the thing is gone. But he will swear to you, on the life of his family, that there was a coyote running alongside his unit at 60 plus miles an hour after he left his skinwalker call. And I remember the way he looked at me, he was like this, he still had that startled, scared look in his face, like, what the fuck do you do with that? I just left the skinwalker call and there's a coyote running alongside my unit at 60 miles an hour. I can't shoot the damn thing.
Yeah, no. I just as a footnote for the show sometime, wouldn't it be great if we could get somebody from one of the tribes, one of the tribal officers, to join us on a show, if they'll talk with us about this, because I understand and respect their beliefs about not talking about it. But wouldn't it be great if we could get somebody on the show, because I don't think that folks have really heard what those guys experience and what they've seen. And I think that combination of being a cop and their spiritual background, wow, what information they could help us with in trying to figure this out, the research.
There should be somebody out there that's willing to talk to us. The younger generation is much more open. I also have a friend who was sheriff for a while, and he's a DA investigator now. He's like following our footsteps. But
yes, we both did that.
But he worked up, and I don't want to give it away, but he worked up in Dulce, New Mexico, which is, if you ever heard the word Dulce, that's where the supposed underground base is. Tons of UFO sightings. Okay. Northern New Mexico. And it's also on a reservation. And he worked up there on the res. And he could tell you some really crazy stories. Everything from little people that an entire school and gymnasium scene, because they have a legend of little people up there, like 2 foot tall people. And so apparently one of them ran across a gym floor during a school event, and where the police was called, and the police searched the entire building, and they found some artifacts of possibly little people. He also told me a story of one of the female officers pulled over, or she didn't pull over. There was a SUV parked alongside the road with its flashers going. And she pulled up to do a welfare check, see if everything's okay. It's nighttime. And she says there was a guy in the car wearing a white lab coat, scientist-looking kind of guy. And there's no labs up in that area at all. You're long ways away from Los Alamos or Sandia or any of those places. And she asked him if he was okay, and he just told the officer, kind of mind your own business. I'm okay. You might want to just move along. Well, being a typical cop, that just makes you more irritated. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. Don't tell me to move along. I'm a cop. So she keeps digging in, and he just basically doesn't give any information. He just tells her to move along. But there's more to the story, and we'd really have to get him on the show.
I think that's something we need to do.
Marty, if you're out there, if you're listening to this when it comes out, give me a call.
Yeah, Marty, come on.
that's a very fascinating story because there's been a lot of documentaries about Dulce. There's been a lot of investigations about Dulce. And I've logged up in that area, and there's weird stuff in the sky. So it's a, I don't know, makes no sense. I mean, if you guys out there listening, just Google Dulce, New Mexico's, and you can find just story after story of underground caverns, of underground laboratories, of a race of alien people that are actually housed up there underground. I mean, there's just story after story after story out there. And some of these stories are told by legit people. Now, I tend to put a lot of credit, and probably too much credit when I say legit, to people just because they may have a ton of degrees, or in my line of work, I've noticed that some of the most brightest people in the world can be the biggest liars too. So,
But hey, and if folks have some stories out there or things they want to share that kind of go along with this, they can get a hold of us also and tell us what they've seen.
Right.
We'd love to hear from you.
And when I say legit people, when we're talking about UFOs, I had some notes over here. Colonel Gordon Cooper, he was on the Mercury and Gemini. He was a Mercury and Gemini astronaut. He's seen UFOs on his missions. He's seen UFOs on the moon, but he never declared or said anything about it until years and years and years later, because these guys are sworn to secrecy. And when people say sworn to secrecy, big deal. Well, it is a big deal for the federal government, because if you have a top secret clearance and you divulge secrets, the penalty in the book is still death. If you commit treason, the penalty is still death. The FAA chief for the Accident Investigation Division, John Callahan, came out recently and told a story about a ball of light that encompassed a 747 and harassed a 747. They have no explanation for it. And he's a chief investigator, accident investigator for the FAA. He says it was not ball lightning. Ball lightning is exceptionally rare, and that used to be another one of those people blame ball lightning on everything. I've seen a UFO, it's ball lightning. That or swamp gas. In Florida, it was swamp gas.
Okay, yeah.
yeah. Oh no, that wasn't a UFO. It was swamp gas. In the United Kingdom, the Chief of Defense, Hill Norton, Lord Peter Hill Norton, recently came out, told a bunch of UFO encounters that he had encountered and investigated. These people held high-level positions, and why are they coming out saying these things? If they're lying, what's the point of lying? I mean, they already got recognition. They're already famous. I mean, they don't need to come out and tell some bullshit story about a ball of light flying around a 747 to get some notoriety. They don't need to do that.
Well, that's what that's what a lot of people are accused of, either getting their 15 minutes of fame. In this case, why they've already got the fame, but it's also maybe to promote themselves in different fields. For example, I've heard people complain that the panel of experts they had from the Navy at the UFO hearings they had, they're just saying this so people will they'll be more become aware of their companies that they're now part of, or something like that, or they're trying to sell something. I can't necessarily see that. It doesn't make any sense for me why the Navy pilots that saw the Tic Tacs, for example, why would they lie about it?
How is that 50 minutes of fame going to help your career? You're already a Top Gun pilot with the Navy. You're an aviator. I mean, life is pretty good when you're in that position. And for you to come out and lie about a 15-minute encounter and then expect to maybe move on to any other flying job would be stupid. That's suicide. Who's going to hire you after you told that story if it's a lie?
Well, and the other half of that is they did see something, but it was some sort of government secret project. But then I got to ask this question. If it's a government secret project they're seeing, where did we get the technology for it?
Oh, yeah.
So, exactly. I mean, there's always a counterpoint to a lot of these arguments. And I think instead of just taking shots at folks, we need to have an open mind and try to figure out how we can find the answers to this. Instead of saying it's not real, it is real. Let's get together and find an answer. And I think that's a huge problem, too. We got to quit fighting each other.
Nobody can explain our technological leap. And when I say leap, it was a hell of a leap that happened within the last 200 years. I've said before, in 200 AD, we were using carts and horses and oxen to drive us around. And in 1850, we were still using carts and horses to drag us around.
Yeah.
And then from
Right.
1850 to 2024, we suddenly have computers we can talk to. And such a in 200 years, we have come from dragging our knuckles across the ground to insane technology. What happened? It has to have been reverse technology. I mean, look at what the Germans managed to do in World War II during the Nazi era. They invented virtually everything. And, you know, rumors always been they had something crashed in the German woods that they reverse engineered because all of the German scientists suddenly just started inventing everything. It's not like their brains got bigger. The schools got better. They got information from somewhere. And why? Where did this come from?
It certainly is, I think, a legitimate question to ask. You know, and it's tough because once again, there are so many people out there that have tried to fake things or try to, for whatever their motive is, they've tried to create something that isn't real, and that puts everything under scrutiny at that point. What we got to do is stop saying everything is fake or everything is automatically real and start actually delving into what the answers are. What evidence do we have and how do we collect it? That's just the cop in me, and I'm an evidence guy.
You're absolutely right. The problem is confirmation bias. If you're a debunker and you don't believe, that's everything you see is like you said, Abraham Lincoln would come into your room and you would just say like, this is a hologram. It's not real. Yeah. Yeah,
exactly.
If Abraham Lincoln came into my room, the first thing I would say is like, honest? Get it? Honest Abe.
Boom. I like that.
But yeah, and it's the same on the other side. Then there's these people that will believe every freaking thing, you know. They'll get sucked in. Those are the kind of people that get sucked into cults. You know, I believe everything you say. You got to be somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you've got to question, but have the open mind while you question.
You know, another interesting thing is a little bit changing gears. And I've just come across this recently. There's an extraordinary amount of successful people that became successful because they had a UFO encounter at a young age or sometime during their span prior to being successful. And when I'm talking about people, I'm talking about musicians, actors, tons of them. There's so many actors out there that say, you know, I was virtually nobody. I was a college dropout. I was cooking in a freaking restaurant. I drove home. There was a light in the sky. I lost freaking 10 minutes, changed my whole attitude about my life, and I started doing this. And now I'm a successful actor. Tons of them, tons of them. The guy from Blind Frog Ranch, he's from Texas, Dwayne Solinger or something like that. You know, I didn't know much about him. He bought this piece of property in Utah, which presumably or possibly has Spanish gold buried on it, and it's also very spiritual. Natives have done some stuff with this project. A lot of stuff going on there. But you look at this guy and you're thinking like, you know, this is a rich Texan. He made his money. I think he was selling drilling mud or something like that for the rigs, the oil rigs. Not a poor person. Very successful at the time already. But you're thinking, why is he in Utah doing some paranormal stuff? Well, I looked into it and I found some videos that he's done, or he's done some TED Talks. Same situation. He's like 10, 11 years old. He's living in Texas. They're not necessarily wealthy. They're like middle class. Something wakes him up in the middle of the night. Something tells him, walk outside. He walks outside. He looks up. There's a UFO parked above the house. Fascinating story. It changes his life forever. Now he realizes that there's much more going on than meets the eye. And I think that's what drives these people once they have a weird encounter. That what you've been told, maybe religiously, maybe spiritually, doesn't quite fit with what just happened to you. There's a UFO sitting above your house. Life is different. There's something else going on. The same thing happens to people that have near-death experiences. You know, their whole attitude changes. Something rewires your brain. Same thing happens with people that take psychedelic drugs. A lot of people that did the acids and stuff. Their life has drastically changed.
Yeah, but there's the argument with those folks that something did rewire their brain with the psychedelic. Here's a question for you. I want to get your thoughts on this. Somebody claims to see a UFO above their house, 100 yards long, 150 yards long. It's huge, even really out in the middle of nowhere. But nobody else sees it. Let's even make it better. They see it in the middle of a populated area. but nobody else sees it. Why do you think?
I think these these things can manipulate what other people think or see. It's possible that
You mentioned that earlier.
it's possible these things are amongst us right now, that they're living amongst us, walking amongst us, because that's possible. It's possible because, hypnosis works. You can be hypnotized to see or not see things or do things not against your will, but we're just biological little creatures compared to these things. Who knows what they can do to your brain, to what you can see and what you can't see.
That's a huge step, and once again, I would love to find evidence of that, and that's where I'm striving. I'm striving to find the mechanism and the methodology to find these answers, because wouldn't that answer so much of what happens to us?
There's so many things we can't answer that science hasn't even got close yet, that we are still way, way, way back. Conscience, what is a human conscience? What is a soul? Is it one and the same? Where does it come from? When does it enter your body? Is it a conception? Is it at birth? Where does a soul even come from? Where does that individual conscience come from? What happens to it when you die? Some people say it's electricity. It just fades off into the atmosphere like all other electricity. Some say electricity never dies and has to go somewhere. I have no clue. But those are some of the things we have no idea. So if we can't explain that, then there's tons and tons and tons of stuff out there we can't explain. What happens to you when you die? Maybe we've already died. I've had several near-death encounters, in my police world and in my flying world, where possibly I probably died. In some dimension, I probably died. Maybe I did die and just didn't know it. Maybe this is just some kind of hologram you're seeing of me, or maybe this is just my.
You look like death warmed over, so maybe.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's the latest. It's the latest look. But have you ever had near-death experiences?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, well, near death in the sense of how in the hell did I make it out of this in one piece, or why wasn't I hurt worse? Yeah, I actually broke my neck as a young cop. And I didn't break it down below. I literally broke it at the base of the skull. And the medical examiner one time said, Larry, you're the only person I've ever spoken to with that injury. And it took me a minute to figure out what he meant. So I've had those things where I have no idea how I survived. Are we living in a matrix? Is that it?
It's a good thing you have such a big head.
Nice. That's good. That's good.
Help fine.
That takes over for the death warmed over comment. I like that.
Yeah, it's okay. Now there's been several occasions where I've probably shouldn't have walked away. Where I think I did a video on my IDK channel one time of responding to a call. It was really, really windy. I mean, like when I say windy, like 70, 80 mile an hour winds. Kind of like a breeze for you guys in Florida, but for out here, it's pretty freaking windy. Windy enough to where power lines and stuff were breaking and poles would get knocked over. And I'm responding to a call, a wreck on the interstate. And it's early in the morning, so I'm like the only car on the road on this 2-lane paved road. And I'm running code, and I'm probably doing about 80, 90 miles an hour. And I look down to do something on my radio. I look back up, and I clearly see a power line stretched across the road with the pole knocked over. And I lock up the brakes. And I brace myself against the steering wheel, and I'm like, this is the end of this. And I come to a squeaking, skidding stop. When I stop, I'm actually sideways in the road. And for a second there, I'm like, I don't recall the power lines hitting the window or anything. So I back up. I shine my spotlight in that direction. No power line, no pole knocked over. My skid marks were there. But that stuff wasn't there anymore. And I clearly seen it. I mean, why would I even imagine that? That made no sense. My mind was going... I was thinking about responding to a wreck. What kind of horrors am I going to see on the interstate this time, and how cold it's going to be up there trying to work a wreck? I was not thinking of a power line across the road, so it's not something my brain just conjured up. And it startled me. The whole time I was working at wreck, I kept thinking about it. I mean, it was giving me chills, thinking like, I think I might have gotten killed. I really thought, I think I might have gotten killed tonight. And this is just an afterthought. This is something I'm doing afterwards. And then it sounds cheesy or corny or almost stupid. But I got home that night and I parked my unit in front of the house, and I was almost afraid to go inside the house. I was like, what if I walk in the house and my family doesn't see me? What if I walk in and my wife and daughter are just sitting around crying, And I'm like, oh my God, maybe I'm a ghost. I really felt that way. That was the weirdest feeling. I walked into the house and I actually walked in the bedroom. I touched my wife. I'm like, whew, everything's good.
Here. Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah, and I don't think folks really understand the emotions that we feel in dealing with crisis all the time. And maybe that's another reason why so many of us are open to it. And it's amazing because when you and I started in this field, you didn't talk about this to everybody. Maybe your zone partner, maybe a buddy, but you didn't mention this. Whereas today, it's pretty common to talk about. But maybe it's the fact that we are just in positions of high stress, high emotion. That just
I think it unlocks a part of your brain. The old saying, you're never more alive than when you're close to death.
Wow. Yeah.
That is the absolute truth. And especially for adventure seekers, like when I fly, it's potentially dangerous. And when you're flying, you think of nothing but flying. You're in a spiritual bliss. Mm-hmm. When you're a cop and you're driving really fast and you're zigzagging out of traffic, that's all you're thinking about. That's it.
Yeah.
When you're staring down, when you got some guy at gunpoint and he's got a gun, that's happened to me many, many, many times. And you're just like, you don't, or pursuit. Pursuits used to be the worst.
Oh my gosh!
Because you never know how they're going to end, but they're going to end. It's not going to go on forever. So you're thinking about how is this going to end? Is it going to be a rollover? Is he going to get ejected? Am I going to get crashed? Are we going to both stop and shoot each other? How is this going to end? I think it unlocks a part of your brain, and it's adrenaline for sure. But there's something that happens to your brain, I think, also. It's definite survival.
There are some folks that talk about chemical enhancement of the brain opening up some spiritual channels. Now, you can easily say things like hallucinogenics just messes up your brain. But let's take what you and I were just discussing a second ago, and that's that adrenaline rush. We've both been there. Walking up in a car, somebody's got a gun in their hand. I mean, we've been there. And maybe that adrenaline rush does open up those channels because people, you've heard people say we only use 20% of our brain. Well, the truth is we use 100% of our brain. We only know what 20% of it does. So maybe that, because adrenaline's a chemical.
Yep.
Maybe that opens up different.
And so is DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which is a natural occurring drug that your pineal gland excretes. And it's in the center of your brain. And it only seems to work during high stress situations or death. Now, you can take DMT and they call it the spirit molecule, the God molecule, because almost everybody who takes DMT, and it's not like this illicit street corner drug. You can't buy DMT like from a vendor down there in his lowrider. When you take DMT, and I've never taken it, but the people I've talked to that have taken DMT, they all have the same experience, and I've looked into it. And they all have spirit helpers. First, there's the sensation of leaving your body, so it disassociates you of your body. And there's a spirit helper that shows up, and they all have the same visions. And a lot of the visions take place in the jungles of South America, South Central America, because that's where DMT is originally made. It's ayahuasca. DMT is a synthetic form of ayahuasca, which is also DMT. But there's something about that unlocks your brain. And it seems like what I've learned about it is everybody that's taken DMT has come out as a better person because it gets rid of your ego. It enlightens you. It makes you a better, nicer, more caring person for humans. So maybe the contrails need to put some DMT in there and just spray the world. And be the end of that.
Well, but talking about just the research to find out the answers. Maybe there's somebody researching what that chemical DMT does to the brain, and maybe more study along those lines will help us. I've really become, whether it be UFOs, Bigfoot, whatever, really a believer in what our brain is capable of doing. And maybe that finding that answer will open up so many other doors for us to explain these things that we just keep have happening to us.
I'd like to think, and I actually believe that probably 10,000 years ago, our brains had many more functions than we have now. We've lost them through the modernization of just day-to-day living and being active all the time with computers and everything else. I think we were much more in tune with nature, and we were probably more capable of doing things with the brain anyway back then.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
Because a lot of written history, you know, like ESP, medium type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That history goes way, way, way back in every religion, every culture.
Every socioeconomic level, everything. You know, what's interesting is I talk to young people today, have no idea who this person is, and his name is Uri Geller. I'm sure you remember Uri Geller.
Bending spoons.
Bending spoons, and he could do that. And you can't debunk what that man was able to do on a television camera, just bending a spoon over just by the power of his brain. Mm. Wow. That, and we could go well into the MK Ultra thing and talk about what the CIA did with remote viewing and stuff way back in the day. But I just don't think that what our brain is capable of, at least out in the open where normal folks like us can see it, is being examined enough in relation to the experiences we've discussed today on our little get together.
You know, I can honestly say, witnessing firsthand ESP or mediumship, or any of that stuff, there's only one encounter I've had, and that was back in Germany. And that tells you what kind of fucked up household I grew up in. My mom.
This is not a kid's show, by the way.
Yeah, if you have kids, get them the hell out of here. My mom used to work in a hotel, and she worked nights. And living in Germany, we lived in this tiny little country town of a population probably of maybe 1,000. And it was like a 30-mile drive to the big city, which was Augsburg, which is a good-sized city. And that's where she worked. And she'd get off probably at 3 o'clock in the morning and drive home. And there was several small towns in between, and there was a cemetery she'd pass, and every time she'd pass that cemetery, she'd get scared. She'd lock the door on the car, you know, make sure the windows rolled up. She'd always get the shivers. And she told us kids about this all the time. She goes, I hate driving past that cemetery at night. There's no way to go around it. So she had a friend that she met at the hotel, and he became a friend of the family. He was a pretty nice guy. And he was, I don't know what he was. I was like 10, 11 years old. So he was some kind of spiritual person. And he said, we need to go to that, not me personally, but her and him, they need to go to the cemetery and find out what's the cause of her being so scared. So they agreed to do this. So they drive to the cemetery, and a typical old German cemetery, mostly Catholic, 99% Catholic there. Big gate with a bell hanging on it. They go into the cemetery, and he tells her to stop where she's most scared, most frightened. And they stop at a grave, and they read the marker, and it was Joseph something. I just remember the first name. I don't remember any other details. And she goes, she was super scared. And he tells her, this is the guy that's giving you trouble. And keep this in mind. This is like 1975, 74, long before ghost shows, long before ghost hunters. So they leave the cemetery, and my mom says when they get in the car, the church bell on that gate rang a couple of times. Now, it was a little windy, and they kind of like, it's probably the wind, but it shouldn't be ringing this heavy-ass bell. So they get back to the house. Now they're at the house, and it's probably like 7 o'clock in the morning. And my mom's making breakfast for him, and and my dad's up, and they're helping this guy for helping out my mom. So he goes, well, we're not done yet. We got to do one more thing. So he takes one of my mom's hair. She had long hair. She takes her wedding ring off and ties the wedding ring to one end of the hair, ties the other end of her hair to a pencil, and then he gets a big drinking glass and sets the whole thing inside of a glass so that the ring is dangling on her hair inside of a glass with a pencil. I don't know if you can picture that.
Yeah.
So it's like a pendulum inside of a glass.
Right.
And now he says, we all need to hold hands. I wasn't part of holding hands. I was just sitting there drinking my Coke, my breakfast Coke and candy bar, and watching this. I'm like, what the fuck are these people doing? Am I living in a house full of witches? What the hell's going on here? So he starts asking questions. And I shit you not, this is where the part comes in where I said I've only witnessed that kind of ESP type moving objects. What do you call it?
Telekinesis.
Telekinesis. That's, I think, the only time I've ever witnessed a person do this without faking it, because there was no faking involved. They're holding hands. The glass is in the middle of the table. Nobody's touching it. There's nobody blowing at it. And he starts asking questions. And they're asking questions about this Joseph guy that she was afraid of. And if I remember right, it was supposed to tap on the side of the glass for yes, and not tap and just like turn in circles without touching glass for no, or something similar to that. That damn ring, when he was asking questions, you know, are you Joseph? Tap on the glass for yes. You could see this ring start slowly, faster, faster, and it go ting once on the glass, and then it'd slow back down. I shit you not. That's the honest to God's truth. They were asking all kinds of questions. They found out he got killed in some kind of farming incident. Not all that long ago. I want to say like in the 50s or something. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't super old, but it was some kind of agricultural death.
Wow.
And you know, he said you need to leave her alone. She doesn't mean any harm. She just drives past you, and you need to unattach yourself. Almost like the modern ghost shows tell you now. You know, you need to leave her alone. You need to stay here. This was in 1975, and my mom said after that incident, it never bothered her to drive past the graveyard again. She goes, she didn't like it. She certainly wouldn't stop and visit, but she goes, she didn't have that. She didn't have that chilled, scary feeling driving past there. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy story.
So many, and there's so many stories like that out there. And it goes back to what I said earlier on. So many people have experienced so many different things. It just can't be mass hysteria or a bunch of people that are crazy. There's more to this.
We were either all crazy or I don't know.
Well, I'm kind of nuts, but
it shows.
Oh, wow. Okay. But your point's well taken, my friend. There's more to this. And as soon as we start recognize it and work together to find the answers, we will. I'm convinced of that.
I think when people die, in a lot of cases, their spirit lingers in that area. And you know, back when I was logging, there was a long stretch, a 30-mile stretch of 2-lane road. Long story short, a Jeep rolled over. The Jeep passed me. He's about 4 miles ahead of me. This is the middle of the day. And I look up and I see a dust cloud and I'm like, what the heck is that? I get closer. The Jeep's laying on the side. It was a male and female. They were horrific. I mean, the female got ejected a long ways. The male got ejected a long ways and the female was trapped underneath the Jeep. Both of them dead, just road rash, horrible death. I think that was that was my first real death I've experienced. I was driving a log truck at the time. Mm-hmm. But it happened on this stretch of road within like 10 miles in any direction is nothing. So it's just a stretch of loneliness out there. And I had to drive that road every day I went to work, usually at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And man, every time I got close to that spot, I would get the shivers. I would get cold. I just knew something wasn't right there. You know, I would just probably because what I've seen, that was probably my brain reacting to the same spot every time, you know?
Yeah.
Horrible. Turned out those guys, I later on talked to a cop and he said they were from the Laguna Reservation. They were doing a pizza run. They had like 6 kids and they were going into town to buy pizza. And they must have been doing 90 miles an hour in that damn Jeep when they passed me. I'm like, because I remember it so clearly. I'm like, that's a fast Jeep. Yeah, it was fast, all right.
So many stories.
Anyway, UFO stories. We just don't know yet. We've talked a lot about UFOs and UFO encounters, but we still don't know.
We'll talk more. And we'll talk more about it too. And I think at the beginning of each show, we need to spend some time talking about the latest bit of information that comes our way, whether it be ghost, cryptid, or UFOs. You know,
right? And it's funny how it all ties in with everything. I mean, anymore, it used to be distinctly different. You know, you had your ghost believers, you had your UFO believers, you had your cryptid believers, and whatever else believers. But it's all almost come into a circle now to where they all kind of come together.
It's starting to, and I'm still kind of on the fence with a lot of that, but the evidence just does seem to keep coming that way, doesn't it?
Now, you do a lot of ghost hunting, and you have done a lot of ghost hunting. Mm-hmm. Have you ever worried about being possessed or something taking over your brain?
No, because first of all, I've got to have a brain for it to take over.
That's true. That's true.
I just thought I'd say that before you did. No, we have a protocol that has, knock on wood, has always helped with us, spiritually to avoid issues like that. No, you know what? No, I don't. I haven't worried about that. I just something inside me tells me I'll be fine. Now, maybe I'm being a little naive, but and we do have a protocol to avoid issues before and after our investigations, because we've had a couple of crazy things happen. But no, I feel pretty confident we can handle any issue that comes our way.
That'll be a good thing
Generally.
for one of our ghost shows. We'll do a ghost episode because there's things I
Oh,
think there's times I think I got definitely affected by the spirit world,
oh,
definitely.
oh.
And
I think I've been affected. I think we've all been affected in the sense that they can reach out and touch us. But as far as being at a permanent issue, I haven't been worried about that.
well, the scary part for me would be because living in the Great Southwest, you're always armed. You have to be, and usually I don't go ghost hunting without a weapon. What if it affects you to the point where you draw your weapon and shoot your partner that you're ghost hunting with? And you have no idea you did this. You hear a gunshot and then you all snap out of it and you're like, what the hell? Wouldn't that be scary?
Yeah, it would be. I'm of the firm belief that when it comes to that, and you always got to be careful, but that we do have domination over our own lives. We do have that we can control that to some extent. I say that, but yeah, I see your point. We don't know what other things can do to us, so we have to be careful.
Well, it probably helps to have more than one person doing ghost hunting. That's why ghost hunting by yourself is kind of dangerous.
Never, don't do it alone. Do not do it
Yeah.
alone. Make sure you got folks there. And if you start feeling funny, you got to get. We've got certain protocols with our team that if you start feeling funny, ill, you're removed from the scene by another member of the team. So we've got protocols in place to. I had that happen with my son Ryan. We were in a place. He was quite a bit younger. He's 25 now, so it was probably when he was about 15. We were in a spot, and my Ryan tends to be very stoic. He's very evidence-based, very skeptical, very serious all the time. And we're in this place, and
Sounds
suddenly
like his
this
daddy.
very he was sit we were got me. We were sitting in this place, and suddenly my very serious son out of the blue says, "Oh, Dad, I really like it here. It's so peaceful. I'd love to just stay here forever." That
Uh-oh.
is not my son. I picked his butt up and got him out of there, and
Yeah.
and he kind of, so I think things can bother us temporarily, but we've got to be smart enough to recognize it and take action. I've had that happen with a couple teammates. I had one time where in Fellsmere in our old school there, and I've never had this happen before, and not really since. I've had a couple interesting things, but where we were getting hits back on our recorders, something was really aggressive, and suddenly I just felt my head spin. I was going down, and my other son Evan caught me as I was going. I didn't even know what happened, and then we played the next record that we folks we were with asked a question on the recorder. Did you do this to Larry? And folks, you can take this for however you want to. I heard it myself. My son heard it. The folks who were with hers. Yeah, and you're next, bitch, was the answer on the recorder.
Did he call you a bitch?
Well,
That's my
actually,
that's my kind of
yeah.
ghost. That's my kind of ghost.
So, stuff can happen. Stuff can
Yeah,
happen.
we'll save all that for our ghost episode. But
Yeah.
I've been affected. I had Christine with me, and I've been affected to where I couldn't talk. I didn't know what I was saying anymore. I was like mumbling. Yeah, I
It's
knew what I wanted
usually
to say, but I may have had a mini stroke. Who knows? But
no kid like that.
yeah, but just things like that.
Well, we're going to have to hit those up on our next shows. We got lots of folks. We got lots of things that we're going to be talking about here, and we're going
Yeah.
to go. We're going
If
to
you
go
guys
off
have
all kinds of
suggestions, if you have suggestions on how we can change the show, we're willing to listen. We may not do them because you may not know shit, but we'll listen to what you say, and you can text us and email us, and
But we're going to talk about equipment too, right? We're going to start discussing equipment on the show, the
yes,
pros and
yes,
cons of it, how we feel about it. So we're going to be talking about that.
we can do an EVP show because I love EVPs. That's to me, that's still the proof in the pudding. Is EVPs. I love EVPs because I've experienced them so much by myself, and like in the middle of nowhere, like in mine country or gold country,
Oh
where
God,
there is no outside contamination. There's no radio stations out there, and you pick up an EVP, and it's like, well, something just spoke to me, and it wasn't me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and we've got some great cool ones on our website even that we've got that you just can't explain. You just can't. And you're right. That's proof in the pudding. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into that. That'll get into some of the other shows. But yeah, it's absolutely proof. And I think anything to do with instrumental transcommunication, which is EVPs, spirit boxes, I think that's where we're going to have our breakthrough. I do, but that's my opinion. I mean, once again,
I agree with you on there. Something sooner or later, somebody's going to invent something. My thoughts are still it's going to involve sound waves or sound in some form.
Okay, sure. I agree.
To me, that's being a musician. Well, I want to be a musician. I play a lot of instruments. But to me, sound has always been the thing. Music is the language of the world, as they say. You can be from any part of the world and play me a song, and I'll either like it or I won't. But it's the communication of the world. And sound waves are nothing more than pressure waves. And more and more, they're proving that pressure waves can affect your body in so many ways, healing ways and sickening ways.
Amen.
And there's a reason why tribes of every freaking country and culture in the world have always used chanting or drums or singing. Yeah.
Yep.
There's a reason for that. So I still think the breakthrough is going to be sound. I may be wrong, but I think so.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, on a different note, do you remember the show Ghost Mine?
Yeah. I specifically thought about it when I was out there with you investigating some of the old gold mines in New Mexico.
Yeah, this one was taking place in Sumter, Oregon. It only ran for 2 seasons, which is a shame because I kind of liked it. I don't know how fake it was, but I can personally say anytime you're around gold country or mineral-rich areas where mining occurred, there's a really, really good chance you're going to have ghosts or spirits there because those are hard-working people that left their homes, usually back east somewhere, with a dream of becoming rich, which almost never happened. These people left everything behind and worked their asses off, out in the middle of nowhere. If they got hurt, they died. Anyway, there's a good reason for them places to be haunted. But the ghost mine place in Sumter, Oregon, it may have sold already, but it was up for sale. You could have bought it, Larry. It was only $40,000.
Oh, shoot. I just would have written the check. And
it's a mineral claim, so you could have had 20 acres for $40,000. You could have just knocked yourself out of it.
Yeah. Pocket change. Well, I'm looking to come out and see you again soon to go back out to those mines and do some more work. So I'm anxious about that. So
yeah, that'll be good. All right, I think we've gone on long enough on this show. Once again, folks, my name's Ike Enzi, IDK Paranormal. You can email me at idkparanormal@gmail.com, or you can just go to any of my videos on YouTube and leave a comment, or you can look me up on TikTok, which is also IDK Paranormal. It's probably my preferred method because TikTok is super fast. And Larry, give out your information.
Yeah, you can get a hold of me.
Which nut house are you in over there?
They've kicked me out of most of them. But you can find me at IndianRiverHauntings.com or ParanormalFBI.com. You can email me at ghostguy59@gmail.com. And if you want to see some of our investigations, see some of the things that we're doing, go to at Indian River, the @ sign, at Indian River Hauntings. I'll get it out, at Indian River Hauntings 2341. And you can see some of the work that we've done. And there's more videos coming out all the time. Also, Facebook at Indian River Hauntings or Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigation. And we'd love to hear from you. Give us some thoughts on the show. We're hoping that this little gathering, he and I will be together with you for a long time, sharing things, talking about things, maybe finding the answers.
It's imperative that you comment on this. Let us know yes or no. Get off your lazy ass. Just hit the key on your freaking keyboard. Give it a thumbs up or do something to let us know.
There's a reason why Ike never entered politics, and you're seeing it.
I did enter politics once, and it was the worst experience of my life. Just couldn't kiss ass. Sorry.
That's not you. One thing you're going to find from us, folks, you're going to get the real deal. You're going to get exactly what we think. So that's why maybe the kids shouldn't be always watching the show. But come back and see us again. And if you have a topic you want us to talk about, or if you have an important story and you want to appear on here, you can come on board as a guest, and we will talk till your ears fall off. especially if you're a police officer with one of the tribes, or that friend of yours that you mentioned. I'd like to.
If your name is Marty, you know who you are. You know, there's several other cops out there that could tell some pretty good stories.
Oh yeah, we want to hear from you.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a cop if you're an EMT or anybody.
ER doc, ER nurses.
Yeah. Whatever you are, if you have a good story, we'll listen to it. All right, so we're going to cut it out. Larry, we'll see you next time. Everybody,
take care, my friend.
Goodbye.
See you later.